You know that moment when you realize the person sleeping next to you for 43 years has been waiting for you to lose your mind so he could take everything you built with your own two hands? I lived that moment. I am 76 years old, and my name is Margaret Elizabeth Chen, and for the last 18 months, my husband Richard has been telling everyone who will listen that I have Alzheimer's disease. He whispers it to our neighbors over the fence. He mentions it loudly to the cashier at the grocery store when I take an extra moment to remember my PIN number. He brought it up to our financial advisor during what I thought was a routine meeting about our retirement accounts. And 3 months ago, he filed papers in court claiming I was mentally incompetent and requesting full control over the fortune I spent 5 decades building from absolutely nothing. The thing about being accused of losing your mind is that suddenly every normal thing you do becomes evidence. Forget where you put your reading glasses. Alzheimer's. Ask your husband what he wants for dinner when you already asked an hour ago. Alzheimer's. Stand in the kitchen wondering why you walked in there. Alzheimer's. Never mind that everyone does these things. Never mind that he forgets things constantly, but nobody is whispering about his deteriorating brain. When you are a 76-year-old woman and your husband wants something, you have the whole world is ready to believe you are losing your grip on reality. I built my company when women were not supposed to build anything except maybe a nice home for their husbands. I started with $200 and a sewing machine in our garage in 1973. Richard told me it was a waste of time. He said nobody would buy custom curtains and upholstery from some housewife working out of a garage. He said I should focus on keeping our home nice and maybe volunteering at the church if I had so much extra time on my hands. But I did it anyway. I took that sewing machine and I made the most beautiful window treatments you have ever seen. I poured everything into every stitch, and people noticed. They told their friends. Their friends told their friends. Within 2 years, I had rented a small studio space. Within 5 years, I had 12 employees. Within 10 years, I had contracts with some of the biggest hotels and resorts in 3 states. Richard watched all of this happen from the sidelines. He kept his job at the insurance company, and he came home every night to dinners I still cooked, and a house I still cleaned, and he never once offered to help with my business. He never suggested we were in it together. He kept his money separate, and I kept mine separate, except mine kept growing and growing while his stayed exactly the same. And I saw something change in him over the years. Something small at first. The way he would minimize my successes at dinner parties. The way he would joke that he was married to a tycoon now, and maybe he should retire early and let me support him. The way his jokes got less funny and more bitter as time went on. When I sold my company 5 years ago, I walked away with $11.3 million. $11.3 million that I earned with my own hands and my own mind and my own relentless refusal to be small. Richard did not see a dime of it directly because we had always kept our finances separate at his insistence from the very beginning. That money went into accounts in my name, investments in my name, a trust in my name. And I watched his face the day the sale went through, and I saw something I had never seen before in 40 years of marriage. I saw hatred. If you are watching this, and you have ever been underestimated because of your age or your gender, or because someone thought they could take advantage of you, then you know exactly what I am talking about. You know that feeling of being invisible while also being watched like a hawk for any sign of weakness. You know what it is like when people start talking about you like you are not in the room. You know the rage that builds up inside you when you realize someone you trusted is waiting for you to fail. And if you are caring for someone with Alzheimer's, or if you are terrified you might be developing it yourself, then you know the special kind of fear that comes with wondering if your own mind is betraying you. Stay with me because what happened in that courtroom 3 weeks ago is something you need to hear. Before we go any further, I want you to do something for me. I want you to subscribe to this channel right now, not because I need the numbers, not because I am trying to sell you anything, but because every single story I share here is for people like us, people who have been dismissed, people who have been underestimated, people who are fighting to hold on to their dignity and their autonomy while the world tries to convince them they are not capable anymore. When you subscribe, you are telling me that you see yourself in these stories. You are telling me that you refuse to be invisible. You are joining a community of people who understand what it means to fight for what is yours. So click that subscribe button right now. Let this be your place to find strength and solidarity and the reminder that you are not alone in this battle. I share these stories because I know you need to hear them. I know you need to know that you are not crazy for feeling the way you feel. subscribe, and let's walk this path together. The first time Richard mentioned Alzheimer's in front of other people was at our granddaughter's college graduation party. We were standing in a circle with some of the other families, and someone asked me about my old business, and I was telling them about a particularly challenging project we had done for a resort in Colorado, when Richard interrupted me. He put his hand on my shoulder in this condescending way, and he said Margaret has been telling this same story for weeks now, and she doesn't even realize she has told it before. He said it with this sad smile, like he was the long-suffering caretaker of a failing wife. The other people in the circle got quiet and uncomfortable. I felt my face get hot. I said, "Richard, I have not told this story for weeks. I have barely told this story at all." He just shook his head like I was proving his point. That was the beginning. After that, it was constant. He started keeping a little notebook where he would write down things he claimed I had forgotten or repeated. He would show it to me sometimes. "Look, Margaret, you asked me 3 times today what time the doctor appointment was. You told Linda the same story about the curtains that you told her last month. You forgot we were supposed to go to dinner at the Hendersons." Except I had not forgotten any of these things. I had asked him once about the appointment. I had told Linda a different story. We had never made plans with the Hendersons. But he had the notebook, and he had this concerned look on his face, and he started making sure other people saw the notebook too. I started doubting myself. That is what this kind of gaslighting does to you. It makes you question your own reality. I would lie awake at night, thinking back over conversations, trying to remember if I had really repeated myself, or if Richard was making it up. I started second-guessing every word that came out of my mouth. I became quieter at social gatherings because I was terrified of saying something I had already said. And Richard noticed my silence, and he used that too. He would tell people I was withdrawing, and that was a classic sign of cognitive decline. He had done his research. He knew exactly what to say to make it all sound legitimate. Then he started insisting I see a doctor. He made the appointment himself with a neurologist he had found. He drove me there, and he came into the examination room with me, and he sat there with that same sad, concerned expression while he told the doctor all about my forgetfulness and my repetition and my confusion. The doctor was kind but professional. She asked me questions. She had me do some memory tests. She had me draw a clock and remember 3 words and count backwards from 100 by 7s. I did fine. I did better than fine. The doctor said my cognitive function appeared normal for my age. She said some forgetfulness is completely normal and not indicative of Alzheimer's. Richard looked disappointed, but he did not give up. He took me to another doctor, and another. He was shopping for a diagnosis. He was looking for someone who would confirm what he had already decided was true, and he found her eventually. A doctor who barely spent 15 minutes with me before suggesting we do more extensive testing. A doctor who seemed more interested in Richard's detailed notes about my supposed decline than in actually talking to me. A doctor who used words like early stage and degenerative and progressive. A doctor who wrote in her notes that I showed signs of mild cognitive impairment that could be early Alzheimer's even though her actual tests showed nothing definitive. Richard took those notes to a lawyer. He filed a petition for guardianship. He claimed I was no longer capable of managing my own affairs. He submitted the doctor's notes and his own notebook full of fabricated incidents and a letter from himself, detailing how worried he was about my well-being and my safety. He requested full control over all of my assets, all $11.3 million of them. He wanted the right to make all medical decisions for me, all financial decisions. He wanted me declared incompetent. I found out about the court filing when a process server showed up at my door. Richard was not home. I signed for the papers, and I sat down at the kitchen table, and I read through page after page of lies about my mental state. I read Richard's description of a woman who could barely function, a woman who wandered around confused, a woman who could not be trusted with her own checkbook, a woman who needed to be protected from herself, and I realized this had been his plan all along. This had been building from the moment I sold my company. Maybe it had been building even longer than that. Maybe he had been waiting decades for an opportunity like this. I hired the best attorney I could find. Her name was Patricia Moreno, and she specialized in elder law, and she had seen cases like mine before. She told me it was going to be ugly. She told me Richard's strategy was designed to put me on the defensive. She told me that once you are accused of cognitive decline, it is incredibly hard to prove you are competent because the very act of defending yourself can be twisted into evidence of confusion or paranoia. She told me we needed to be strategic, we needed to be thorough, and we needed to document everything. So I started my own notebook. I wrote down every conversation I had with Richard. Every time he claimed I had forgotten something, I wrote down exactly what had actually happened. I started recording some of our conversations on my phone, not to use in court necessarily, but to prove to myself that I was not crazy, that my version of events was real. And what I discovered in those recordings was chilling. I caught Richard lying directly to my face about things we had discussed. I caught him telling me I had said things I had never said. I caught him creating false memories and then acting concerned when I could not remember them. Patricia hired a neuropsychologist to evaluate me, an independent expert who had no connection to Richard or his handpicked doctor. I spent 6 hours doing the most comprehensive cognitive testing you can imagine: memory tests, language tests, problem solving, executive function, visual spatial skills. They tested everything, and when the results came back, they showed what I already knew. My cognitive function was completely normal, better than normal actually for someone my age. There was no evidence of Alzheimer's disease, no evidence of dementia, no evidence of any cognitive impairment whatsoever. We also subpoenaed Richard's financial records, and that is when things got really interesting. It turned out my dear husband had not been as financially stable as he pretended to be. He had made some very bad investments over the last few years. He had lost most of his retirement savings in a cryptocurrency scheme. He had taken out a second mortgage on our house without telling me, and he was behind on the payments. He owed money to people I had never heard of. He was drowning in debt, and he had been hiding it from me for years. And my $11.3 million must have looked like a life raft. The court date was set for 3 weeks ago, November 14th. I will remember that date for the rest of my life. We arrived at the courthouse early in the morning, and Richard was there with his lawyer looking confident, looking like a concerned husband who just wanted to protect his ailing wife. I sat at the table next to Patricia, and I felt the weight of everything pressing down on me. This was it. This was the moment where I either proved I was still in control of my own life, or I lost everything. The judge was a woman in her early 60s named Judge Sarah Weinstein. She had a reputation for being thorough and fair and not tolerating any nonsense in her courtroom. Richard's lawyer went first. He presented all of Richard's evidence, the notebooks, the doctor's notes, the testimony from Richard about my decline. He painted a picture of a woman who was losing her grip on reality and needed her husband to step in and save her from herself. He made it sound noble. He made it sound like love. Then it was our turn. Patricia stood up and she methodically destroyed every single piece of Richard's case. She presented the independent neuropsychological evaluation, showing I was completely competent. She presented testimony from my former business associates about my sharp mind and clear thinking. She presented my own records showing that every incident Richard had documented in his notebook was either exaggerated or completely fabricated. And then she did something I did not expect. She asked the judge if she could play some audio recordings. Richard's face went white. His lawyer objected, but Judge Weinstein allowed it. And the courtroom listened to Richard's voice on my phone recordings. They heard him lying to me about conversations we had. They heard him telling me I had forgotten things that never happened. They heard him creating a false reality and then acting concerned when I pushed back against it. The judge's expression got harder with each recording, but Patricia was not done. She presented Richard's financial records. She showed the court his debts and his losses and his desperate financial situation. She showed the timeline of when his financial troubles started and when he first began talking about my supposed Alzheimer's. She connected the dots in a way that made his motivation crystal clear. This was not about love or concern. This was about money. This was about a man who had spent his entire marriage resenting his wife's success and who finally saw an opportunity to take what she had built. Then Patricia asked the judge if I could make a statement. Judge Weinstein nodded. I stood up and I walked to the witness stand and I looked directly at Richard, and I told the truth. I told the court about 43 years of marriage to a man who never supported my dreams. I told them about building a business while he stood on the sidelines making jokes about it. I told them about his bitterness when I succeeded beyond anything he had ever accomplished. I told them about the change I saw in him when I sold my company. And I told them about the systematic campaign he had waged over the last 18 months to convince everyone I was losing my mind so he could get his hands on my fortune. My voice did not shake. My mind did not wander. I did not forget a single detail. I was articulate and clear and precise, and everyone in that courtroom could see that there was absolutely nothing wrong with my cognitive function. I was not a confused elderly woman who needed protection. I was a woman who had been targeted by someone she trusted. When I finished, Judge Weinstein asked Richard if he wanted to testify. He declined. His lawyer tried to argue that the recordings were taken out of context and that Richard's financial troubles had nothing to do with his concerns about my health, but it was too late. The damage was done. Everyone in that room could see exactly what this was. Judge Weinstein took less than 10 minutes to make her decision. She denied Richard's petition for guardianship in its entirety. She said the evidence clearly showed I was fully competent to manage my own affairs. She said Richard's petition appeared to be motivated by financial gain rather than genuine concern for my well-being. And then she said something that made my heart soar. She said that anyone who would gaslight their spouse into believing they have a degenerative disease in order to steal their assets should be ashamed of themselves. She said it directly to Richard, and he sat there and he took it because what else could he do? But here's where the story takes a turn that nobody in that courtroom expected, including me. After the judge made her ruling and we were gathering our papers to leave, Patricia pulled me aside. She had something to tell me. Something she had discovered during her investigation that she had not shared yet because she wanted to wait until after the hearing. She handed me a manila envelope. She told me to open it when I was ready. She told me it would change everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I waited until I got home. Richard had not come back to the house yet. I sat down at that same kitchen table where I had read his petition 3 months earlier, and I opened the envelope. Inside were documents, legal documents, and as I read through them, I felt the ground shift beneath me. Richard had a daughter he had never told me about, a daughter from a relationship before we met, a daughter who was now 51 years old, a daughter he had been in contact with for the last 15 years without ever mentioning her to me. And more than that, he had been sending her money, lots of money. Money he told me was going to investments or savings or charitable donations. Money that had contributed to his current financial crisis. Money he had been funneling to this secret daughter while building a life with me based on lies. There were emails between Richard and this woman whose name was Jennifer, emails going back years. In them, Richard talked about how he had always regretted giving her up, how he had found her when she was in her 30s and wanted to be part of her life, how he could not tell me about her because I would not understand, how he was trying to make up for lost time by supporting her financially, how he promised her that when I was gone she would be taken care of, when I was gone, as if he had been planning for my death, as if he had been counting on it. And then I found something even more disturbing. Emails from just 2 years ago where Richard told Jennifer about my company sale, where he told her about the $11.3 million, where he said he was working on a plan to get access to those funds, where he said he might need to prove I was not capable of managing my own affairs anymore, where he literally outlined his strategy to have me declared incompetent. And Jennifer had encouraged him. She had told him he deserved that money after putting up with me for so many years. She had told him to do whatever it took. I sat there with these papers spread out in front of me, and I realized the man I had been married to for over 4 decades was a complete stranger. Everything I thought I knew about our life together was a lie. He had a whole secret family I knew nothing about. He had been systematically stealing from our marriage to support them. And when that was not enough, he had tried to steal everything I had by destroying my reputation and my sense of self. The envelope also contained something else. Evidence that Richard and Jennifer had been planning what to do with my money once he got control of it. They had looked at properties. They had talked about investments. They had discussed Jennifer's children and how they would benefit. They had spent my fortune in their minds before Richard had even filed the guardianship petition. They were so confident it would work. I called Patricia immediately. She told me this information had come to light during the financial investigation, but she had wanted to use the guardianship hearing to establish my competence first before bringing up the affair and the secret daughter, because it could have muddied the waters. But now that I had been vindicated, we could decide what to do with this information. We could pursue charges for fraud. We could file for divorce and use this evidence to make sure Richard got nothing. We had options. But as I sat there looking at these papers, I realized something. I realized I did not want revenge. I did not want to drag this out in more courtrooms and more hearings. I did not want to spend whatever years I have left being angry and bitter like Richard had been. What I wanted was freedom. What I wanted was peace. What I wanted was to close this chapter of my life and start something new. So I made Richard an offer through our lawyers. I would not pursue fraud charges. I would not expose his secret daughter to our family and friends. I would not take him for everything he had in a divorce. But he had to leave. He had to sign papers relinquishing any claim to my assets now and forever. He had to move out of our house immediately. And he had to agree to never contact me again unless it was through attorneys regarding the divorce proceedings. In exchange, I would give him enough money to pay off his debts and start over somewhere else. Not a fortune. Not anything close to what he had tried to steal, but enough to survive. Richard took the offer. What choice did he have? If I had pressed charges, he could have gone to jail. If I had pursued the divorce aggressively, he would have been left with nothing. This way, he got to walk away with some dignity intact, even though we both knew he deserved none. He moved out 2 weeks ago. The house is quiet now, in a way it has not been in years. It is a peaceful quiet, a clean quiet. I am sitting here now at 76 years old, and I am thinking about what comes next. I have my mind, I have my money, I have my freedom, I have the truth, and I have this community. All of you who are watching this, who have been underestimated or dismissed or gaslit into believing you are less than you are, I want you to know that you do not have to accept other people's versions of who you are. You do not have to let someone else's fear or greed or bitterness define your reality. Now, I need you to do something with me. I need you to leave a comment right now. I need you to type these words. I trust my own mind. Just that simple phrase. I trust my own mind. Do it right now. Type it in the comments. Because when you type those words, you are making a declaration. You are saying that no matter what anyone else tells you about your capabilities or your memory or your worth, you know your own truth. You are saying that you refuse to be gaslit. You are saying that you see through the manipulation. And when you see other people commenting the same thing, you will know you are not alone. You will see hundreds of people just like you who are standing up for themselves, who are trusting themselves. So go ahead and type it. I trust my own mind. Let that be your declaration today. Let it be your armor against anyone who tries to make you doubt yourself. Post it in the comments and know that I see you and I believe you and I am standing with you. You know what the cruelest part of Richard's plan was? It was not trying to take my money. It was trying to take my mind. It was trying to make me believe that the thing that makes me who I am was failing. Your mind is everything. It is your identity. It is your autonomy. It is your power. And when someone tries to convince you that your mind is unreliable, they are trying to take away your power to advocate for yourself. They are trying to make you dependent. They are trying to control you. Richard knew that if he could make me believe I had Alzheimer's, I would stop fighting him. I would start accepting his version of reality. I would hand over control willingly because I would think I needed protecting. But here is what he did not count on. He did not count on the fact that I knew myself. Deep down underneath all the doubt he tried to plant, I knew my own mind. I knew I was not confused. I knew I was not repeating myself. I knew my memory was fine, and I held on to that knowledge even when it would have been easier to accept his narrative. Even when the doctors he chose started using scary words. Even when I was lying awake at night questioning everything. I held on to the truth of my own experience. If you are watching this and someone in your life is trying to convince you that you are not as sharp as you used to be, pay attention to why they might be doing that. Pay attention to what they have to gain. Pay attention to whether their concern feels genuine or strategic. Real concern for someone's cognitive health looks like support and compassion and working together to find solutions. Fake concern looks like documentation and lawyers and power grabs. Real concern builds you up. Fake concern tears you down while pretending to help. And if you are watching this because you are actually living with Alzheimer's or caring for someone who is, I want you to know that you still deserve dignity. You still deserve to have your voice heard. You still deserve to be treated like a whole person with thoughts and feelings and preferences that matter. Having Alzheimer's does not make you less than. It does not mean you should be dismissed or talked over or treated like a child. It means you need support and patience and love. It does not mean you need to be robbed. I have spent the last few weeks thinking about trust, about how we decide who to trust with our lives and our hearts and our resources. I trusted Richard for 43 years. I stood beside him through everything. I cooked his meals and managed our home and built my business and never asked him for anything. And he repaid that trust by trying to destroy me. But I do not regret trusting him. I regret that he was not worthy of that trust. Those are two different things. What I have learned is that trust should be earned continuously. It is not something you give once at a wedding and then never question again. People change. Circumstances change, and you have to keep paying attention. You have to keep noticing whether someone's actions match their words. You have to keep checking in with your own instincts about whether something feels right. I ignored my instincts for too long with Richard. I noticed his bitterness, but I told myself it was not that serious. I noticed his resentment, but I told myself he would get over it. I noticed the way he diminished my accomplishments, but I told myself that was just his sense of humor. I should have listened to what I was noticing. The other thing I have learned is that your assets need protection, just like your heart does. I was lucky that Richard and I had always kept our finances separate. If we had not, I would have had a much harder fight on my hands. If you have built something, whether it is a business or savings or property or anything else, make sure it is protected legally. Make sure there are structures in place that prevent someone from taking it away from you, even if that someone is your spouse. I know that sounds unromantic. I know it sounds like you are planning for failure, but protecting yourself is not planning for failure. It is being smart. It is being realistic about the fact that people are complicated and money changes things, and you never know what might happen. When Patricia first told me about Jennifer, part of me wanted to be angry at this daughter Richard had hidden from me. But then I read the emails, and I realized she was a victim too, in a different way. Richard had abandoned her when she was a baby. He had found her decades later and used money to try to buy back her affection. He had made her promises he could not keep. He had involved her in his schemes and made her complicit in trying to defraud me. She thought she was getting to know her father, but really, she was just another person Richard was using to get what he wanted. I do not excuse her participation in his plan. She is an adult who made her own choices. But I also understand that Richard had a way of manipulating people. He had been doing it to me for years. I have not met Jennifer. I do not know if I ever will. Part of me is curious about this person who shares half of Richard's DNA. Part of me wants nothing to do with any of it. Right now, I am just focused on moving forward. I am focused on figuring out what my life looks like now that I am not spending all my energy defending my sanity. I am focused on the freedom I have earned. Yesterday, I went through the house, and I packed up everything that belonged to Richard or reminded me of him. His clothes, his books, his collection of vintage cameras he never used, the photographs from our early years together when I still believed we were building something good. I put it all in boxes, and I had it shipped to the address where he is staying. I do not want any of it. I want to walk through my home and see only the things I chose, only the things that bring me joy or serve a purpose, only the life I am creating now. Then I went to my lawyer, and I had my will updated. I am leaving everything to charity. My nieces and nephews will get some personal items that have sentimental value, but the bulk of my estate is going to organizations that support women entrepreneurs and people living with actual Alzheimer's disease and elder abuse prevention. Richard tried to steal my fortune, and now that fortune is going to help people he tried to exploit. That feels like justice to me. That feels like the best possible ending to this chapter. I also started volunteering at a local senior center. I meet with people who are actually experiencing cognitive decline, and I listen to their stories. I help them write things down they want to remember. I sit with them when they are confused or scared. I remind them that they still matter, that they are still whole people deserving of respect and dignity. And in doing this work, I am reclaiming the diagnosis Richard tried to weaponize against me. I am honoring the real struggle of Alzheimer's instead of the fake version he tried to pin on me. Here is what I want you to understand. When someone tries to take your power, they will go after your mind first. They will make you doubt yourself. They will make you question your perceptions. They will create chaos and then blame you for being confused by it. This is not an accident. This is strategy, and the only way to fight it is to stay grounded in what you know to be true. Document everything. Trust yourself. Find people who believe you. Get professional help when you need it. Do not let anyone convince you that advocating for yourself is a sign of paranoia or illness. Advocating for yourself is a sign of strength. I could have accepted Richard's narrative. I could have let the doctors he chose define me. I could have believed his notebooks and his concerned expressions and his gaslighting. It would have been easier in some ways. I could have just handed everything over and let him take care of it all and accepted my new role as the declining wife who needed managing. But I did not do that. I fought. I fought because I knew the truth. I fought because I had worked too hard to let someone steal it all with lies. I fought because I owed it to myself and to every woman who has ever been told she is too old or too confused or too female to know her own mind. And I won. Not because I had the best lawyer, though Patricia was incredible. Not because I had money for good legal help, though that certainly did not hurt. I won because I never stopped believing in my own reality. I won because I trusted myself even when Richard was trying to make me doubt everything. I won because I gathered evidence and I stayed clear-headed and I refused to accept a false narrative about who I am. That is what I want for all of you. I want you to win your battles. I want you to trust yourselves. I want you to know that getting older does not mean surrendering your agency. It does not mean accepting other people's definitions of your capabilities. It does not mean being grateful when someone offers to take control of your life. You are allowed to keep your power. You are allowed to keep your money. You are allowed to keep your autonomy. You are allowed to say no to anyone who tries to take those things from you, even if that person is someone you have loved for decades. The twist in my story is not that Richard had a secret daughter, though that was certainly shocking. The twist is not that he tried to have me declared incompetent, though that was cruel. The real twist is that in trying to take everything from me, Richard gave me the greatest gift he could have given me. He gave me clarity. He gave me freedom. He gave me the opportunity to see exactly who he was and who I was, and to make a choice about what kind of life I wanted to live going forward. He thought he was destroying me, but really he was setting me free. For 43 years, I lived in a marriage where I was simultaneously too much and not enough, too successful, too independent, too focused on my business, but also not understanding enough, not supportive enough, not willing enough to just accept things as they were. Richard needed me to be smaller so he could feel bigger. And when I refused to shrink, when I kept growing and succeeding and building something extraordinary, he resented me for it. That resentment poisoned everything. It poisoned our conversations and our intimacy, and ultimately his own sense of ethics. He convinced himself that my money should be his money because he had put up with me all these years. He convinced himself that I owed him. And when I did not offer to share what I had built, he decided to take it. But here is the thing about trying to steal someone's life work. You have to live with yourself afterwards. Richard has to live with the fact that he tried to gaslight his wife of 4 decades into believing she had a degenerative brain disease just to get his hands on her bank account. He has to live with the fact that he kept a daughter's secret for 15 years while pretending to be an honest man. He has to live with the fact that when the judge looked at all the evidence, she saw right through him and called him out publicly for his shameful behavior. He has to live with knowing that his plan failed, that I am still here, still sharp, still in control, still the woman who built an empire from nothing while he watched from the sidelines. I do not know what Richard tells himself at night. I do not know if he feels guilty or if he has convinced himself he was justified. I do not know if he thinks about all the years we spent together or if he has already rewritten our history in his mind to make himself the victim. I do not know. And honestly, I do not care anymore. He is no longer my problem. He is no longer my responsibility. He is just someone I used to know, someone I used to trust. Someone who turned out to be exactly the kind of person I would have warned my younger self to avoid. What I do know is that I am 76 years old, and I have been given a second chance at life. I have been given the opportunity to live on my own terms without someone undermining me or manipulating me or waiting for me to fail. I get to wake up every morning in a house that is peaceful. I get to make decisions without second-guessing whether someone is going to use those decisions as evidence against me later. I get to be fully myself without apology or explanation. And that is a gift I do not take lightly. I have started doing things I always wanted to do, but never had time for when I was building my business and managing a marriage. I joined a painting class at the community center, and it turns out I am terrible at painting, but I love it anyway. I started taking long walks in the morning before the city gets too noisy, and I noticed things I never noticed before, like the way the light hits the buildings and the sound of birds in the park. I have coffee with friends without worrying about getting home to make Richard's dinner. I stay up late reading if I want to. I eat cereal for dinner sometimes just because I can. These are small freedoms, but they feel enormous after decades of living according to someone else's schedule and expectations. I have also reconnected with people from my business days, former employees and clients and competitors who became friends over the years. People I had lost touch with because Richard never liked it when I spent too much time talking shop or reminiscing about my success. They have been checking in on me since word got around about the court case. Small towns and business communities talk, and people heard what Richard tried to do, and the response has been overwhelming. So many people reached out to tell me they always knew something was off about him. So many people shared their own stories of being gaslit or undermined or having someone try to take advantage of them. So many people told me I inspired them to stand up for themselves. That is why I am sharing this story with you. Not because I need sympathy, not because I want attention, but because I know there are people watching this who are going through something similar. Maybe you are being told you are losing your memory when you know you are not. Maybe someone in your life is documenting your every mistake and using it against you. Maybe you are in a relationship where you are constantly made to feel like you are the problem when deep down you know that is not true. Maybe you are scared to speak up because the person manipulating you has convinced everyone else that they are the reasonable one and you are the difficult one. I am here to tell you that you are not crazy. You are not imagining things. Your reality is real. Your perceptions are valid, and you deserve to fight for yourself. It is hard. It is so hard. There were days during this whole ordeal when I wanted to give up. Days when I thought maybe everyone else is right, and I am losing it. Days when the constant doubt and questioning and gaslighting made me so tired I could barely function. But I kept going. I kept documenting. I kept trusting myself, and I won. You can win too, but you have to start by believing in yourself. You have to start by acknowledging that what you are experiencing is real manipulation, even if the person doing it claims they love you or are just worried about you. You have to start gathering evidence and building your case and finding people who will believe you and support you. You have to start protecting your assets and your autonomy and your sense of self. You have to start saying no to the narrative someone else is trying to write about your life. It is not too late. It does not matter if you are 76 like me or 86 or 56. It does not matter if you have been in this situation for 1 year or 40 years. It does not matter if everyone around you has already bought into the lies. You can still fight back. You can still reclaim your truth. You can still protect what is yours. But you have to start now. You have to take that first step of acknowledging what is really happening and deciding you are worth fighting for. And if you are caring for someone who actually does have Alzheimer's, please hear this. Your job is to support them with dignity and compassion. Your job is to help them maintain their autonomy as much as possible for as long as possible. Your job is to advocate for them, not to take advantage of them. If you find yourself thinking about their assets as your future inheritance, you need to check yourself. If you find yourself making decisions for them that are really about your convenience rather than their well-being, you need to check yourself. If you find yourself frustrated by their repetition or confusion to the point where you are treating them with less than full humanity, you need to step back and get help. Caring for someone with cognitive decline is hard work. It requires patience and grace and selflessness. But it never requires stealing from them or manipulating them or treating them like they are already gone. I think about the real Alzheimer's patients I work with now at the senior center, and I am in awe of their courage. I am in awe of the way they keep showing up even when their minds are betraying them. I am in awe of the moments of clarity they have where they know exactly what is happening to them, and they are scared, but they are still trying. I am in awe of their families who care for them with such tenderness and dedication, and I am grateful that my experience, though traumatic in its own way, is nothing compared to what they are going through. I got to keep my mind. I got to fight back. I got to defend myself. They do not always have that option, so I fight for them now too. I advocate for better care and more research and greater awareness and legal protections for vulnerable elders. I turn my anger about what Richard did into action that helps other people. That is the other piece of this. You can take your pain and you can transform it into purpose. You can take your experience of being victimized and you can use it to help others avoid the same fate. You can take your hard-won wisdom and you can share it with people who need to hear it. That is what I am doing right now. That is what this channel is about. Every story I share here is meant to give you strength. Every experience I talk about is meant to show you that you are not alone. Every call to action I give you is meant to help you reclaim your power. Speaking of which, I need you to do something for me right now. If you have not already subscribed to this channel, I need you to subscribe right now, not tomorrow, not later, right now while you are thinking about it. Because every time you subscribe, you are telling me that these stories matter. You are telling me that you need this community. You are telling me that you are ready to stop being a victim and start being a survivor. When you click that subscribe button, you are joining thousands of other people who refuse to be silenced or dismissed or manipulated. You are joining a movement of people who trust their own minds and protect their own lives and stand up for their own worth. This channel is your resource. This channel is your reminder. This channel is your safe space to hear truth and share your own experiences and know that someone understands. So subscribe right now. Let this be your first act of reclaiming your power today. The comments section of this channel has become something beautiful. People share their stories. People offer encouragement to each other. People celebrate their victories and mourn their losses together. It is a real community, and I read every single comment. I see you. I hear you. I believe you. And I want you to know that your voice matters. Your experience matters. Your truth matters. So after you subscribe, I want you to scroll down to the comments, and I want you to join the conversation. Tell us what you are going through. Tell us what you have overcome. Tell us what you need support with. We are here for you. I never imagined at 76 years old I would be starting over. I never imagined I would be single again after more than 4 decades of marriage. I never imagined I would be sitting here making videos and sharing my story with strangers on the internet. But here I am. And honestly, I am happier than I have been in years. Lighter, freer, more myself. Richard's betrayal hurt. It hurt deeply, but it also freed me from a relationship that was slowly suffocating me. It freed me from constantly walking on eggshells and second-guessing myself and trying to make myself smaller so he could feel adequate. It freed me from the exhausting work of loving someone who did not really love me back. Because real love does not try to steal from you. Real love does not gaslight you. Real love does not wait for you to become vulnerable so it can exploit you. Real love builds you up. Real love celebrates your success. Real love stands beside you as an equal partner. Real love trusts you and believes in you and wants what is best for you, even when what is best for you is not necessarily what is easiest for them. I did not have real love with Richard. I had proximity. I had habit. I had the appearance of partnership. But I did not have love. Not the kind that lasts. Not the kind that matters. Now I get to figure out what I want my life to look like without anyone else's input. I get to decide how to spend my time and my energy and, yes, my money. I get to pursue whatever interests me without justification. I get to be generous when I want to be generous and frugal when I want to be frugal. And I do not have to explain any of it to anyone. I get to live according to my values instead of constantly negotiating with someone whose values were so different from mine. This is freedom. This is what I fought for. This is what I won. And I want this for you too. Whatever your situation is, I want you to have freedom. I want you to have autonomy. I want you to have the chance to live authentically without manipulation or control or gaslighting. I want you to trust yourself enough to stand up for what is right. I want you to have the courage to walk away from people who diminish you, even if those people are family or spouses or people you have known for years. I want you to protect your assets and your dignity and your sense of self. I want you to win your battles the way I won mine, but I also want you to know that winning looks different for everyone. For me, winning meant going to court and exposing Richard's lies and keeping my money and getting my freedom. For you, winning might mean something else entirely. It might mean setting boundaries with a family member who takes advantage of you. It might mean getting a proper diagnosis from a doctor who actually listens to you. It might mean opening your own bank account that your spouse does not have access to. It might mean talking to a lawyer about your options. It might mean simply trusting yourself when someone tries to make you doubt your perceptions. Winning is whatever gets you closer to safety and autonomy and peace. Define your own victory and then fight for it. I have learned so much through this experience. I have learned that age does not mean automatic decline. I have learned that cognitive sharpness can coexist with physical aging. I have learned that some memory lapses are completely normal and not indicative of disease. I have learned that doctors are human and can be influenced by compelling narratives even when those narratives are false. I have learned that the legal system can work for you if you have good representation and solid evidence. I have learned that marriage is not a guarantee of loyalty or love. I have learned that financial independence is one of the most important things a person can have. I have learned that my own judgment is trustworthy. I have learned that I am stronger than I thought I was. I have also learned about forgiveness. Not forgiveness for Richard, because honestly, I do not know if I will ever fully forgive him for what he tried to do, but forgiveness for myself. Forgiveness for the years I spent ignoring red flags. Forgiveness for staying in a marriage that was not serving me. Forgiveness for not standing up for myself sooner. Forgiveness for all the times I made myself smaller to accommodate someone else's insecurity. I am working on forgiving myself for those things. I am working on understanding that I did the best I could with the information and resources I had at the time. I am working on being gentle with myself instead of harsh. I am working on self-compassion. And self-compassion is something I want for you too. If you are beating yourself up for not seeing the signs sooner, or for trusting someone who did not deserve it, or for not protecting yourself better, stop it. Stop being cruel to yourself. You survived. You are still here. You are still fighting. That is enough. That is more than enough. Give yourself credit for your resilience. Give yourself grace for your mistakes. Give yourself permission to learn and grow and do better going forward without drowning in shame about the past. The future is wide open now. I have years ahead of me if I am lucky. Years to do whatever I want. Years to make up for lost time. Years to live boldly and joyfully and fully. I am thinking about traveling to places I always wanted to see but never made time for. I am thinking about taking classes in subjects that interest me. I am thinking about mentoring young women entrepreneurs. I am thinking about writing a book about my experience. I am thinking about all the possibilities, but I am also just enjoying the present. I am enjoying the quiet mornings with my coffee and my thoughts. I am enjoying the freedom to change my plans on a whim. I am enjoying getting to know myself again after so many years of defining myself in relation to someone else. I am enjoying the simplicity of making decisions that only affect me. I am enjoying this chapter of my life in ways I never expected. There is something powerful about surviving something that was meant to destroy you. There is something transformative about looking at the worst things someone could do to you and coming out the other side intact. I am not the same person I was before Richard filed that guardianship petition. I am harder in some ways, more cautious, more aware of how people can weaponize your vulnerabilities against you. But I am also softer in other ways, more compassionate toward people who are struggling, more willing to be authentic, more committed to living truthfully, more appreciative of genuine connection, more grateful for my health and my clarity and my ability to advocate for myself. And I am angrier. I am angry at a system that makes it so easy for people to file for guardianship of competent adults. I am angry at how readily some medical professionals will slap a preliminary diagnosis on someone based on secondhand reports from a spouse with ulterior motives. I am angry at how society dismisses older women as confused or difficult when they stand up for themselves. I am angry at how much time and money and emotional energy I had to spend defending my own competence. I am angry that there are countless other people out there going through similar situations who do not have the resources to fight back the way I did. That anger is fuel now. I channel it into advocacy work. I speak at events about elder financial abuse. I volunteer with organizations that provide legal help to seniors. I share my story whenever I can to raise awareness about guardianship abuse and medical gaslighting. I want to make it harder for people like Richard to do what he did. I want to create more protections for vulnerable adults. I want to change the conversation around aging and cognitive decline so that we are not so quick to assume incompetence. My anger has purpose now. It is not just eating away at me. It is driving me to make things better for other people. If you are angry about what has happened to you, or what is happening to you, that is okay. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to feel rage at the injustice of it all. Do not let anyone tell you to calm down or get over it or forgive and forget. Your anger is valid. Your anger is information. Your anger is telling you that something wrong happened and it needs to be addressed. Listen to your anger, honor it, and then figure out how to use it constructively. Turn it into boundaries. Turn it into action. Turn it into change. Let your anger be the thing that motivates you to protect yourself and help others and refuse to be a victim. But also allow yourself to feel the other emotions too. The grief for what you thought you had. The sadness for the time you lost. The fear about what could have happened if things had gone differently. The relief that you made it through. The hope for what comes next. All of these emotions are part of the healing process. All of them are valid. All of them deserve space. Do not rush through your feelings trying to get to some imaginary finish line where you are all better and completely healed. Healing is not linear. Some days you will feel strong and vindicated. Other days you will feel sad and betrayed. Both are okay. Both are part of the journey. I still have sad days. Days when I think about the 43 years I spent with Richard, and I wonder how much of it was real. Days when I look at old photographs and try to remember if I was happy back then or if I was just pretending. Days when I feel foolish for not seeing what was right in front of me all along. Days when I miss the idea of having a partner even though the reality of my partnership was so flawed. Those days are hard, but they are getting less frequent, and they are getting easier to move through. I let myself feel the sadness, and then I remind myself of what I gained by losing him. What I gained was myself, my whole entire self without compromise or negotiation or diminishment. That is worth more than any marriage that requires me to be less than I am. That is worth more than any partnership that is based on lies and resentment and hidden agendas. That is worth everything. So here is my final message to you today. You are worth everything too. Your mind is worth protecting. Your assets are worth defending. Your dignity is worth fighting for. Your truth is worth telling. And your life is worth living on your own terms. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. Do not let age or fear or manipulation stop you from standing up for yourself. Do not accept less than you deserve just because it is easier than fighting. Do not shrink yourself to fit into someone else's limited vision of who you should be. You have one life. This is it. This is your chance to live it fully and authentically and courageously. Do not waste it trying to please people who do not have your best interests at heart. Do not waste it doubting yourself when you know deep down what the truth is. Do not waste it being small when you were meant to be magnificent. You deserve so much more than what Richard tried to give me. You deserve love that is real, respect that is genuine, partnership that is equal, freedom that is absolute. Go out there and claim it. And remember, you are not alone. This community is here for you. I am here for you. Every person who has subscribed to this channel and shared their story in the comments is here for you. We see you. We believe you. We are standing with you. So trust your own mind, protect your own life, fight your own battles, and know that on the other side of this struggle is a freedom you cannot even imagine yet, a lightness, a peace, a version of yourself that is unburdened and unafraid and fully alive. That is what I found. That is what I want for you. That is what you deserve. Thank you for watching my story. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for trusting me with your time and your attention. If this video resonated with you, please like it and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts or your own story. And make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next video. Together we are stronger. Together we are heard. Together we cannot be silenced or dismissed or erased. I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care of yourself, trust yourself, and never stop fighting for the life you deserve.